question number 21 is a 3D geometry problem. So here we have Jerry, and he has this 6 centimeter cylinder, and he's just going to essentially cut the cylinder in half, basically. And we want to know which answer choice is closest to the volume of his wedge in cubic centimeters. So like this problem mainly relies on you knowing like the volume for the formula for the volume of a cylinder. So it's a good idea to like know the like common formulas for like the volumes of various shapes. Like it's good to know what is the volume of a cylinder, the volume of a sphere, the volume of, you know, a rectangular prism, the volume of a pyramid. It's good to know these formulas so that like you can solve the problem. If you don't really know the formulas, then it might be a little tough to solve the problem. So if you have a cylinder with like a base radius of r, and let's say the cylinder has a height of h, right? Then the formula for the volume of a cylinder is going to be pi r squared times h. And this formula is, you know, it's good to memorize if you don't know it already. And if you want to know why this is true, like you can think of it intuitively, right? You can think of like, we know pi r squared is the area of the base of the cylinder. It's the area of this like red circle kind of. And this h part kind of represents like the height, right? So if you're to imagine taking this red circle and like dragging it upward, like kind of like pulling this red circle upward, then it generates a volume. And depending on how high it is, you just multiply by h to determine how high is the cylinder. So you just do kind of like pi r squared times h to get the volume of the cylinder. It's like an intuitive explanation why this formula is true. But that's definitely like a good formula to know. So clearly we see that the volume of the cylinder in this case, we see that the radius of the cylinder is going to be 4, right? Because we know this diameter of the cylinder is going to be 8. So that means this length here is going to be 4, 8 divided by 2. So using our formula for the like volume of a cylinder, we would do pi times the radius squared, which is 4 squared, times the height, which is 6. So pi times 4 squared is 16 pi, times 6 is 96 pi. But the question doesn't want us to find the volume of the cylinder. It wants us to find what is the volume of like the wedge he creates. But luckily, this is pretty simple, right? Because in this diagram, the cylinder is like cut in half, right? Because like it's again, you're just looking at the symmetry. Like you're just taking the cylinder from here, this point to like this point, and you're like kind of cutting it in half. You're kind of like slicing the cylinder diagonally. You can think of it like that. So each of the 2 wedges that Jerry creates is going to have half the volume of the entire cylinder. So the volume of each of his wedges is going to be 96 pi divided by 2, which is 48 pi. But of course, 48 pi is in the answer choices, and that's because they want us to kind of approximate it. So a lot of times you can just approximate pi as 3.14 and multiply it by 48, because clearly none of the answer choices have a pi in it. They want us to kind of approximate it. So if you were to do 48 pi as 3.14 times 48, you would get like, if you were to multiply it out, you would get like 149.32 approximately 149.32. And clearly, if you were to look at the answer choices, choice C of 151 is clearly going to be the closest one, right? And the question just wanted us to find the which of the following is the closest. So that tells us that choice C is the answer, and we would be done.